All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. And day by day, as we get closer to the start of a new college football season, this time around, I want to take this opportunity to talk about the Big 12. Okay, the Big 12 last year, we saw this league in a frenzy, okay, because out of this 16-team league, four teams finished 7-2. And one thing about the Big 12 last year, we really saw this league beat up on each other. And I think it showed when it came time to make the decisions as far as who was going to be in the 12-team college football playoff. Why? Because out of the Power Four leagues last year, only the Big 12 got one representative. Every other league, ACC, SEC, and Big 10, of course, got multiple teams. Okay, so you got to ask yourself, is the Big 12 going to be respected this year by the committee and folks around college football when it comes playoff time and playoff consideration? We have to wait and see. But nonetheless, I think the Big 12 is going to be an exciting league. I think there are multiple teams in this league that are going to have an opportunity to win it. At the end of the day, I don't think this time around that we're just going to see one team get to the college football playoff from the Big 12. But you look at K State, okay, and K State won this league back in 2022, and they have an opportunity to get back there and win it again this year. I like this K State offense with running back Dylan Edwards, quarterback Avery Johnson, and wide receiver Jace Brown. And make no mistake about it, this Wildcats team is going to run the football. Defensively for K State, linebacker Austin Romaine is going to be in that discussion to be the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Plain and simple. You've got a solid, strong safety in VJ Payne, like another linebacker, as well as outside linebacker Desmond Purnell. And I think it's interesting that the Big 12 has K State and Iowa State going over to Ireland to face off in a couple of weeks. Why? Because both of these teams have what it takes to win the Big 12. And it really would not surprise me to see both K State and Iowa State facing off in Arlington this December. And speaking of Iowa State, they just won 11 games last year for the first time in school history. We just saw their head coach, Matt Campbell, get himself a pay raise and a contract extension. And of course, if you're Iowa State, you're looking to do bigger and better things this year. They got to the conference championship game in 2020, lost to Oklahoma. And last year, they got run off the field courtesy of Arizona State and running back Cam Skattebo. But make no mistake about it, a lot of talent returning for the Cyclones on offense, led by quarterback Rocco Becht. I love the running backs that the Cyclones have with Carson Hansen and Abu Sama, and then they have a very experienced offensive line. Defensively, Jontez Williams back in that secondary, as well as Cooper Abel at the linebacker position, are going to be important for Iowa State. I talked about that K-State game in a couple of weeks. That's going to be big. If Iowa State can go out there and take care of their business, they've got BYU in late October coming to Ames, and then they also have Arizona State to begin the month of November coming to Ames as well. Two big games, two important games that can really go a long way in determining who gets to the Big 12 championship game. BYU was one of those teams that went 7-2 in the Big 12 last year. And of course, like Colorado, BYU did not make the conference championship game. More was expected of BYU. I talked about them when I did my top 25. I had them ranked much higher. And of course, the transfer of quarterback Jake Retzlaff has changed that. Nonetheless, there is still a ton of talent for Kalani Sitake on this BYU team, both offensively and defensively. I just want to see how they are able to navigate without Jake Retzlaff at quarterback. For Colorado, of course, a lot of talent from last year's Buffalo team is now in the NFL, especially with Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders. So, of course, if you're Coach Prime, who is going to be your starting quarterback now? Is it going to be former Liberty quarterback Kadon Salter? Aside from the quarterback position, Colorado has to figure out their run game. They were one of the worst in the nation a year ago. And then what are they going to do defensively? I like junior cornerback DJ McKinney, one of the best players in the secondary in all of the Big 12. But what is this Colorado defense going to do as a whole? Very interesting schedule for Colorado. I want to see if this team is able to get more physical in the trenches. They should finish with a winning record, definitely go to a bowl game, but I don't see them really making a push to try to win the Big 12 this year. Now, for Baylor, last year saw them bounce back from a horrid 2023. They were right there in contention to get to the Big 12 Conference Championship game. They went 6-3 in the league. And of course, if you're Dave Aranda, you want to try to take that next step to get your Bears to once again win this league. Remember, Baylor won the Big 12 back in 2021. You're bringing back quarterback Sawyer Robertson. I love this ground attack with Bryson Washington and Dawson Pendergrass. You've got a veteran wide receiver in Josh Cameron. It's nothing but seniors and juniors on his offensive line for Baylor. And then inside linebacker Keaton Thomas, as well as free safety Devin Bobby in that secondary for the Bears. They get Arizona State at home on the 20th of September. That's going to be a big one early on. They also get K-State at home on the 4th of October. So we got to see if Baylor is going to be able to answer the bell this year. The defending Big 12 champs, and I'm talking about Arizona State, and who knew that all that the Sun Devils really needed was to get out of the Pac-12, and then they got to the Big 12, and then they won the league their first year in the league. Now, of course, no more Cam Skattebo on offense. He's with in the NFL with the Giants right now. They got to try to fill that void at running back. So let's see what Kyson Brown is going to do. A lot of people are very high on Arizona State's quarterback for this season, and what is he going to do? And I'm talking about Sam Levitt. Okay, he threw 24 touchdowns last year as a freshman. Can he build off of that? Jordan Tyson, in my opinion, one of the better pass catchers in the Big 12, and then a lot of experience defensively for ASU with outside linebacker Keyshawn Elliott, defensive end Clayton Smith, and cornerback Javen Robinson. I'll tell you like this: outside of going to Iowa State to begin the month of November, Arizona State has themselves a very manageable schedule. And the bottom line is this: you had better believe Kenny Dillingham is going to have ASU ready to play each and every Saturday. Now, for Texas Tech, we know that this team spent a lot of money this offseason between the portal and the NILs, you name it. The Red Raiders are going to be one of the most expensive teams in college football this year. Will it lead to a lot of wins on Saturdays? We've got to wait and see. Make no mistake about it. We know that the Red Raiders are going to score points with quarterback Baron Morton, and they brought in the former SC running back and Quentin Joyner. But nonetheless, what are they going to do defensively? The Red Raiders were 127th in the nation last year on that side of the football. But there's talent over there. Yes, they're bringing in a new defensive coordinator. Will Sherwood be able to get Texas Tech's defense to live up to expectations? We have to wait and see. Now, for Kansas, we saw the Jayhawks be a thorn in the side of plenty of teams last year in the Big 12. They finished under 500. Can the Jayhawks do enough to finish on the right side of the 500 mark and get to a bowl game? You know the K-State's going to run the ball with Daniel Highshaw at running back and, of course, Jalen Daniels at quarterback. 3 seniors on that offensive line for Kansas, and they are relentless when it comes to running the football. And like I said, Kansas wants to go out there and shatter some dreams. Can they shatter the dreams of K-State as far as winning the Big 12 on the 25th of October? We've got to wait and see. Now, a team that really failed to live up to expectations last year, and that was Oklahoma State. One of the biggest disappointments last year for 2024. They began the year ranked in the top 25, and then they had to settle for a 3-9 mark. And on top of that, they were the only team in the Big 12 that did not win a game within the conference. You've got Mike Gundy at head coach, and nobody has won more games as the head coach of the Pokes than Gundy. And then definitely he's going to look to get Oklahoma State back on track. Defensively, I think that's where it starts for the Cowboys. They were 133rd in the nation last year. They've got to find a way to get tougher. And I think from the early stages of this season, we will see whether or not this Oklahoma State squad has improved. Now, for Sonny Dykes and TCU, will they be more than just a middle of the pack team in the Big 12? They won 9 games last year. They went 6-3 within this tough league. Very interesting right out of the chute for TCU. They're at North Carolina, and of course, that's the debut, the college debut. Former New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick at Chapel Hill. And of course, there's going to be a spectacle and then some for that contest. Basically, TCU plays all of the top contenders this year in the Big 12. They're at Arizona State on the 26th of September. They've got Colorado at home on the 4th of October. They're at K-State the week after that. They're home for Iowa State on the 8th of November, and then they're at BYU in the following week. So let's see if Texas Christian is going to be able to hold their own this year. Now, for Houston, we saw them have consecutive 4-8 campaigns, and they definitely want to try to find a way to make more of an impact. They were 128th on offense last year. That's not going to get it done. They only scored 10 points or less 5 times. Okay. And in the Big 12, if you can't score points, you ain't going to win. Okay. So they've got former A&M quarterback Connor Wegman. What's he going to do for the Cougars? And of course, if you're Houston, you try to make the most of the transfer portal. So let's see if Houston can make an impact this year. Now, the last time that Utah finished with a losing record under head coach Kyle Whittingham, they turned things around. They went 5-7 last year. Okay, as year number one for them in the Big 12 after coming over from the Pac-12 did not go as planned. Kyle Whittingham, I'm not sure how much longer that he is going to remain as the head coach at Utah. Is probably going to be his decision when it's time to walk away. But it's one of those with Utah and Kyle Whittingham. They have known how to do more with less. And when you doubt them, that's usually when they step up the most. Let's see if the Utes can make an impact or more of an impact this year. For Cincinnati, 2 years in the Big 12 has not produced a lot as they've only won 4 games within the league. Now, Scott Satterfield is entering his 3rd year at Cincinnati as their head coach, and I think the pressure is starting to mount. Can he find a way to get the most out of the Bearcats and make them relevant in the Big 12? We've got to wait and see. Another team that came over from the American with Cincinnati is UCF. And last year we saw head coach Gus Malzahn leave. He is now the offensive coordinator at Florida State. So what did the Knights of Central Florida do? They decided to go old school and they brought Scott Frost back. And of course, nobody really wanted Scott Frost to leave when he was a head coach at UCF. It's just the fact that his alma mater came calling in Nebraska. He got an offer that he could not refuse. It did not work out for him in Lincoln, and he is hopeful to revitalize his coaching career as well as the football program at UCF. It's going to take some time as far as Scott Frost to rebuild things in his image at UCF. It's not going to be as easy this time around because the Big 12 is a tougher league than the American. So I wish Scott Frost all the luck, but let's see if he can make that impact. Speaking about teams in the Big 12 going old school, West Virginia, after 6 years of mediocre football under Neil Brown, decided to move on, and they went back and brought a very familiar face back to Morgantown and one Rich Rodriguez. And like it was when Scott Frost left UCF for Nebraska, the folks did not, and Morgantown did not want to see Rich Rod leave. As a matter of fact, they were heartbroken 18 years ago when he made the decision to leave West Virginia for Michigan. And of course, Rich Rod never had the success at either Michigan or Arizona that he once enjoyed with the Mountaineers. He was able to revitalize himself and put himself back on the map at Jacksonville State. And I feel like this. I think it's going to take Rich Rod some time to get things going in his image at West Virginia. But I feel like it's the perfect fit. Even though it's still nearly 20 years after the fact, I think it's a perfect homecoming. I feel like, listen, had Rich Rod never left West Virginia, they probably would have built a statue for him that right now, because that is the direction that he was trending with this program. Can he be able to get it back? It's going to take some time, but let's see. And finally, there's Arizona. And of course, the Wildcats really took their lumps last year, as they only won 2 games within the Big 12. Of course, they lost their star wide receiver, Tedoroa McMillan, to the National Football League. You still got quarterback Noah Fafita. There's talent on this Arizona Wildcat team with the likes of middle linebacker Tay Brown and defensive end Trey Smith. But can the Cats find a way to make more noise in the Big 12? We have to wait and see. But when it's all said and done, I think the true contenders for the Big 12 championship this year, I think Arizona State is going to once again be in that mix, as is Iowa State. I really like Kansas State's chances, and then I also like the chances of Baylor. I think those are the top 4 teams that are really going to make a push to try to get to Arlington. When it's all said and done, I got K State and Iowa State getting to Arlington for the Big 12 championship game. And I think Kansas State is going to be the last team standing. And like I said at the top, I don't think that we're just going to see one team from the Big 12 get in this year. I think it's one of those where, it's very easy, and this is no slight to either the SEC or the Big Ten. I think it's very easy, to get hooked on those both of those leagues, because there's plenty of talented football teams there. But the Big 12 has some talent as well, and I think their commissioner Brett Yormark, of course, is fighting, for respectability for his league. But the bottom line is, like I've said before, you got to go out there and take care of your business on Saturdays against the teams that you're supposed to take care of business against, especially the non-conference games against the other power leagues. I think at the very least, we're going to see 2 teams from the Big 12 get into the college football playoff this year, but nonetheless, they're not going to be a one bid league as if they were a group of 5 member last year. But nonetheless, last year was very exciting on the gridiron for the Big 12 conference. And I think this year has the potential to be better. And like I just said, I think it all ends with Kansas State raising the banner as Big 12 champs. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button, as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it is greatly appreciated. And as we continue this journey, leading up to the start of another college football season with my conference by conference breakdown, tomorrow night, it's going to be all things about the Mountain West. And if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. Also, just like it is for the X, you can check me out on Instagram at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. You give me that follow, I'll give you that follow right back as well. And then finally, you can also check us out on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating groups going on social media. And just before I sign off, just let you know, got some bad news today. And it's one of those where it really hit me. But nonetheless, Unc, I'm going to miss you. You're no longer with us. You're with your brother, my dad now. And I'll always think about you. RIP. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.